No one can disagree that cameras are one of the best inventions humans have created. From the days of black and white photos to the present day, the primary purpose of camera lenses has been to document the beautiful moments in our lives. Over time, we have begun to use cameras as a means of surveillance and protection. We also cannot deny the dark side captured by surveillance cameras, which document difficult and painful events. Generally, in this video, I will present to you a completely different perspective and share with you the strangest clips ever captured. It's a mix of things that have no explanation or horrible crimes. So now, I want all of you to prepare yourselves because I am sure this video will give you chills. Back in 1990, on December 22nd, there was a person named Vaughn Taylor who, in this video, was sitting next to a Christmas tree and opening Christmas presents one after another. The person behind the camera was Edward Dully, Vaughn's longtime close friend who was very interested in filming. At that moment, he was capturing Vaughn's reactions. The video is a bit strange because we notice that Vaughn did not show a positive reaction or express gratitude for the gifts he received. But that's normal. It sometimes happens and reminds us of many family videos. However, everything will take a shocking turn once we learn the surprising information about these two individuals, especially when we know their identities. Before filming this video, both of them had just finished serving prison sentences. Edward had been convicted of arson, and Vaughn had been charged with armed robbery. After their release, there was hope that they would rebuild their lives and live a peaceful, lawful life. But that couldn't be further from the truth. After their release, Vaughn called one of his friends and told him, "Listen, Edward and I are thinking about going to the mountains for an exploratory trip, and in parentheses, to shoot at some people." He said it bluntly, as if it were a celebration for their release from prison. So, the two of them headed to the mountains and reached a place called Oakley, Utah, which had various cabins for camping. They started thinking about breaking into these cabins, taking what they wanted, and leaving, or, if they liked it, staying there for a while. In most cases, the owners of these cabins were supposed to have left a long time ago due to the snowfall. However, this wasn't true for everyone because there was a family named Teed, consisting of the father, Rolf, his wife, Kay, and their two daughters, Liney and Tricia. They were also accompanied by their 76-year-old grandmother, Beth. This family was staying in one of the cabins and had made sure to go to the cabin on that day to celebrate Christmas. On December 22nd, the family headed to a nearby town to finish buying some gifts, leaving the cabin unattended. During this time, Edward and Vaughn were wandering around the area, and unfortunately, they chose the Teed family's cabin. As soon as Vaughn and Edward broke into the cabin, they realized that the owners had just left. From the state of things, they guessed that the family would return soon. Sensing an opportunity for murder, they decided to wait for the family to come back. During their wait, they filmed the video of Vaughn opening the presents. So now, as the picture becomes clearer, Vaughn was opening the family's gifts, not his own as I initially mentioned. Anyone watching the video would think the gifts were meant for him. The video becomes even more chilling when you notice that Vaughn had a gun in the video and was reading Liney's name on the gift. What's even more dangerous is that the situation didn't affect them at all. They were completely emotionless. A few hours later, Grandma Beth, Mom Kay, and Liney were all heading to the cabin. As soon as they entered, Edward and Vaughn raised their weapons at them. Liney started praying and begging them, pleading with God to protect her and her family. Edward coldly told her, "Your prayers won't help you because I worship the devil." They grabbed her mother and grandmother and shot them without any reason. Now only 20-year-old Liney was left. Desperately, She tried to convince them to leave her alone and go away because she knew that her father and sister were on their way and she didn't want them to suffer the same fate as her grandmother and mother. But it was to no avail. Within minutes, the family's second car arrived. Edward and Vaughn threatened the father and Tricia with their weapons, demanding that the father strip and give them all his money. The father tried to reason with them, pleading, "Take everything you want. Just leave my daughters." Immediately, Vaughn shot the father, and he fell to the ground. Now only the two daughters, Liney and Tricia, were left. Vaughn and Edward were not satisfied with the destruction they had caused. They had destroyed an entire family that should have been happily gathered together just an hour before. Before leaving, Edward and Vaughn filled the entire cabin with gasoline and set it on fire. They then left the cabin and stole the family's snowmobile and took the girls with them, heading down the snowy path. On their way, they noticed a man waving at them from a distance. That man was Randy, the girls' uncle. Randy recognized them from afar and alerted the police. The girls were terrified that their uncle would suffer the same fate as their family, so when he called out to them, they ignored him, pretending not to hear or recognize him. They told their captors, "We don't know who that is." Randy continued to chase after them, shouting for them to stop, but the girls kept ignoring him. At this moment, Randy had a realization that something terrible must have happened to the people in the cabin, the rest of the family. He was certain of his feeling when he saw the car coming down the hill toward him. He started to focus on who was inside the car. It was Rolf, the father, still alive despite being shot twice in the head and set on fire, with his eyes bulging out. Miraculously, he managed to stay alive, take the car and drive down to seek help. Rolf told his brother Randy, "I've been shot. My wife has been killed, and my daughters have been kidnapped." Randy immediately called the police, who quickly tracked the vehicle. The kidnappers veered off the main road, and the car rolled over several times before crashing into a ravine. After a brief exchange of gunfire between the kidnappers and the police, Vaughn and Edward surrendered and were arrested. Edward was sentenced to life in prison. As for Vaughn, who appeared in the video opening the gifts, he was sentenced to death. The girls testified about the crime in court, and it was a painful experience for them to handle the same weapons that were used to kill their grandmother and mother in order to reenact how the crime happened. It is said that the criminals were shocked to see the father alive and testifying against them in court. They left behind that disturbing video, which became one of the worst clips ever captured by a camera lens. Our next destination takes us to Taiwan, specifically to a hotel where the building manager was working the night shift. The building was in complete silence when suddenly he heard a commotion and saw a mother and her son in front of him. He was surprised because he had never seen them before, but she told him she was there to meet a friend. The situation seemed normal until several hours passed, and the manager noticed she hadn't left the building. The last time he saw her was when she took the elevator. Out of curiosity, he decided to check the surveillance cameras to see where she went after taking the elevator. When he reviewed the footage from the elevator camera, what he saw was very strange and inexplicable. Exactly as you saw it, she was inside the elevator with a fearful expression on her face. She pressed the button for the 11th floor, took off her jacket and her son's jacket, and removed her shoes before leaving the elevator.
At the end of the night, the woman didn't come down.
Wait, what?
She went to the 11th floor that led her to a staircase that would either lead her to the roof or to the bottom.
And they still haven't found them?
They still haven't found them.
The manager continued to follow the footage to see where she went after leaving the elevator. The footage showed them going upstairs to a stairway that led to the roof. At this point, you might feel that these scenes are somewhat familiar, reminiscent of a similar incident involving Eliza Lam, who was seen in an elevator before disappearing completely. Eventually, her body was discovered in the water tanks. But I have to tell you that this story is even stranger than the Eliza Lam case. despite how bizarre her case was. The police were called, and they searched outside the building, thinking that perhaps she and her child had died or jumped from the roof. However, there were no signs of such events, no bloodstains or any evidence of suicide. This meant that they didn't jump or commit suicide. Something even stranger happened. All the entrances and exits of the building were monitored by surveillance cameras. They reviewed all the footage and found that the mother and her son never left the building. The police searched every corner of the building, and while searching, they remembered the Eliza Lan incident. They decided to check the water tanks, thinking she might have committed suicide there. After searching the water tanks, they found nothing. That's why I keep saying that this case is extremely strange. Adding to all this, none of the residents in the building knew the mother or her son. The woman left only a few clothes in the elevator, which were useless in the investigation. They searched for years with no results. The outcome was zero. This incident caused terror among the residents of the building and gave rise to frightening theories. After that, all the residents on the 11th floor moved out, except for one family who weren't scared. But everyone else left their apartments because of the theories that emerged. Some people believe that certain floors in hotels and buildings are places you shouldn't be in. Do you remember the Korean elevator game that was popular at one point and inspired shows and movies? There were indeed people who believed in this legend.
Elevator game is a creepy paranormal game from Japan. They say if you perform this ritual correctly, you will be able to go to another world.
Some people think the mother and her son ended up in another dimension because of the 11th floor. We're talking about something supernatural, almost like a glitch in life. Personally, I don't believe in these things, but some people propose the theory that a glitch happened and they got stuck in another dimension, which is why they disappeared from our reality and entered another one. What brought people to this conclusion is that cadaver dogs were brought in, and they didn't find any trace of a body. Since there were no bodies found, it means they weren't killed, didn't die, or commit suicide, because otherwise there would be bodies. The cadaver dogs didn't find any scent of bodies, so they must be alive. But if they are alive, where did they disappear to? That's why people came up with the theory of another dimension. Some people say they must have left the building, but no one saw them leave. The question is, how did no one see them? And why didn't the surveillance cameras capture their exit? What do you think happened to them? Because honestly, there is no explanation, and the case remains unsolved to this day. No one knows what happened to the woman and her son, and no one knows where they disappeared to. They entered the building and never left. So, what do you think happened from your perspective? The next clip features a man named Robert. Robert loves skating and enjoys spending his free time in this sport. One day, he filmed a clip of himself in a bar in Los Angeles where he was rapping. Listen to the clip carefully. We know that many rappers like to be unconventional in their songs, but what Robert said was far from normal. He said, "I killed the girl and buried her in the dirt," with a lot of cursing because he was rapping.
I killed my buried that in the dirt. And I'm out because the cops trying to look for me.
If you notice, the people behind him were trying to vibe with him, but at the same time, they were shocked and scared by what he was saying. They were kind of believing him when he said, "I killed the girl and buried her in the dirt." The clip caused a huge uproar. People wondered if Robert was actually confessing to a crime and not just rapping. The situation became serious, especially when the police found Robert's car and discovered a shovel with dirt on it and red stains inside his car. After conducting a DNA test on the blood they found, they discovered that it belonged to a girl named Amanda. Amanda was Robert's friend and had been missing for several days at that point. 5 hours after finding Robert's car, he was arrested. Imagine, at that time, He was trying to escape by using tear gas. One of his neighbors testified that she saw Robert with her own eyes carrying a body and putting it in the truck. But the question remained, where did the truck go? The police went back to the day Amanda disappeared, which was July 29, 2019, and traced all her steps with Robert, the places they went together, and everyone they talked to. However, there was a 5-hour gap where they couldn't determine where they were or find any camera footage of them. This is the period they believe Robert used to hide the body because Amanda's body has never been found to this day. This led people to believe that she might have been trafficked and that she is not dead at all. It's possible that she was somehow sold, as human trafficking is indeed present on the dark web and has happened many times. After Robert was arrested, he didn't confess to killing Amanda, even though he'd practically admitted to it in his rap song. It was as if he confessed unintentionally. On April 22nd, Robert was charged with assaulting Amanda, strangling her, and threatening her with a gun. He was charged with murder based on the evidence found, including Amanda's blood in his car and home. If convicted of these charges, he would face either the death penalty or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. One of the things that have become essential in our lives is the dash cam. Many times you're driving normally, and suddenly you face an unexpected situation or encounter something strange. I'm sure most of you have seen scary clips captured by dash cams, whether of accidents, armed robberies, or incidents that can turn a driver's life upside down in a minute. In 2019, such clip emerged and went viral. This clip was filmed on December 30th, 2019, specifically in San Francisco, California. The driver was heading down a steep road, which is known for showcasing the beauty of nature with its shrubs and water. However, it's also a dangerous road where any driving mistake could be fatal. On this particular day, the beauty of the scenery was shattered in the driver's eyes due to what he witnessed. The police received a call from the driver, who reported seeing a car plummet into the sea from a height of hundreds of feet. This happened in a split second, leaving the driver no time to fully comprehend what he was witnessing. How did this happen, and how many people were in the car? For a moment, he felt like he was imagining things, so he decided to check the dashcam to confirm it. The car was speeding, and the driver didn't hit the brakes. Minutes after calling the police, rescuers arrived and found tire tracks, but something important was missing. When they searched the water, they found no car. The search team covered the entire area quickly, hoping to save the people in the car, but found nothing. The search continued for days and weeks, but all they found were remnants of a few other cars. None matched the type of car that fell into the water or the one they were looking for. What's stranger is that, even though the police didn't specify the exact type of car, no one reported any missing persons, whether friends or family. This car was unique. It was a green 2009 Lexus SUV. You don't see that type, color, or model often. Despite the wide circulation of this video, no one could identify the car, nor were any missing person reports related to the car filed. This led us to the theory that the video was fake and fabricated. This prompted experts to delve deeper into this theory and search for evidence of video editing. However, the investigation found nothing to prove the theory. Despite the video's oddity, it was completely real and unexplained until the theories ended about 5 months later, specifically in April 2020, when some swimmers discovered a body floating at a distance. It turned out to be the corpse of a woman named Tracy Sinclair. After investigation, it was revealed that she was the owner of the missing car. It's unknown why her disappearance wasn't linked to the dashcam footage before or why the car veered off course like that. But the fact that she didn't hit the brakes made everyone say it was a deliberate suicide. However, leaving aside the suicide theory, the strangest thing is that her green Lexus was never found, not even parts of it. This has led many people on social media to remain unconvinced by the entire outcome. The next clip is of the couple, Crystal and Damien, whose lives improved significantly after they got their own house a few months ago. This house became a vital part of their relationship. Despite their happiness in this house, there was something a bit scary about the place, and sometimes things happened that they couldn't explain. For this reason, they decided to install surveillance cameras in every corner of their house to capture the strange events happening to them. After a while, they had strong evidence that the horror they were experiencing was not an illusion but something real. This doubled their fear. On August 6, 2022, one of the surveillance cameras inside the house, specifically in the hallway, captured something noteworthy. And it's important to mention that it was filmed in the middle of the night. Watch the video. We don't know exactly what the source of the sound is, but it's likely someone playing a prank on them or a crazy person knocking on the door in the middle of the night and running away. However, the next video is the one that truly has no explanation. This video was recorded when the couple was chatting in the kitchen until their conversation was interrupted by this event.
They're not trying. That's just how they.
As you saw, when the argument between them intensified, a plate fell on its own, followed by other plates. It was like a ghost decided to step in and end their discussion. But imagine that this video isn't the worst part. The upcoming video scared them even more. After midnight, Crystal was home alone while Damien was at work. She was browsing her phone when this happened. At first, Crystal thought Damien had come home early from work, so she waited for him to enter. After several seconds without seeing him, Crystal started shaking with fear. But it seems that even this incident wasn't the worst one. The final event was the worst thing that happened to them. We don't know exactly what happened, but it left them with no choice but to leave the house. It didn't give them an option to stay or go, they had to leave. In this scene, Damien was explaining the situation to Crystal, who was sitting next to him and crying. He describes how the incident was so severe that it forced them to leave their dream home, hoping things would settle down.
We're just outside because it's getting weird in there and we don't feel safe being in there anymore, so we're just gonna go to an Airbnb for the night and just for the night, and then we're gonna figure out.
The couple booked a hotel for the night, but the next day they decided to return home and try their luck, hoping the problems had been resolved. According to their account, through communication with the spirit haunting their house, the spirit was asking them to leave. They prepared everything for the session, and in a moment of sheer brilliance, decided to perform rituals in the bathroom, not realizing that the whole idea was terrible.
Good? Mm-hmm. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Watch the clip. The shower door suddenly started shaking, and that's when the couple realized something was wrong with the seance they were conducting. The entire session and the idea itself were a mistake. Terrified, they decided to leave and return to the hotel again, feeling that the safest plan was to stay away from the house for now. But what about you? Do you believe in these things? No one knows or has an exact explanation for what's happening in Crystal and Damon's house. Until new updates come out, the answer will remain unknown. The last video, published on YouTube in September 2022, was deleted a few days later for some reason. Some people speculated that it was removed because the person in the video experienced a major shock from the incident and didn't want to remember it. Although the exact reason remains unclear, the video owner re-uploaded it for those who were interested before deleting it again. The video can be described as nothing short of terrifying. In it, a security guard working a night shift in a private building in a neighborhood in Colombia suddenly appears on camera, waving to someone outside the building. He then goes inside, or at least that's what he thought. Watch the clip. At the beginning, the guard appears to be waving at someone outside the building and inviting them in. But as the video continues, we realize he is talking to someone who isn't there at all. The video itself is creepy, but the next piece of information is even worse. The security guard says that in these clips, he was talking to an old woman who had entered and was asking for directions to a specific place in the building. As we see in the video, several minutes pass, and the guard continues talking, but it seems no one is there. Then he receives a call from his colleague who was watching him on the surveillance cameras and shocked the guard by telling him, "You're alone there. Who are you talking to?" The guard presses the elevator button but quickly realizes that taking the stairs would be the fastest escape. He runs down the stairs at breakneck speed without looking back. Of course, he can't be blamed for this. It's unclear where he went, but he ran as far away as possible. All of his colleagues were convinced that he had seen something supernatural. This video remains a mystery. Who or what was the security guard talking to? I'll leave the commentary up to you. And that's just a small part of the strange and scary footage captured by surveillance cameras or cameras in general. In your opinion, what was the most frightening, surprising, or impactful moment for you? That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and share it everywhere. If you'd like to support me, thanks a lot, and stay tuned for more.